I allowed the world to measure my success for years, and the world told me it was measured in things that could be measured, like money and wealth and likes and views. Sort of came up later over the last few years, and comments and the size of my pipeline or the quality of my pipeline go on, how much happiness I have, how much purpose I have, uh, the condition of my life and how happy I am, and that can be measured as well. And then I realized that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I get to decide, nobody else. So that's what we're going to talk about. So Gail, Florian, welcome. How do you guys measure success?
I don't measure success because that means I'm making a comparison against something, and I just start my day being joyful. And as long as I am feeling I'm on a path that is aligned with me, then that's success. So, but I don't measure. Am I better today than yesterday? Well, of course, I want to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. What does that measurement mean? It's never ending, so how can you measure it? Florian, what's your thoughts?
Well, yep. So I have two thoughts, and one of them is what is success? Okay, so first we need to define what is success for each and everyone. My experience taught me that we all have a different version of it. And my second question is, so Gail, you talked about that path being aligned with your path and all that, and I'm thinking, okay, how do you know when you are aligned and when you are not? These are my thoughts. And basically I do not measure success either, because my success is just based on how I feel, which is very hard to measure.
Right.
Like there is not oh, I'm 51% happy and 49% frustrated today, or whatever I feel. There's not that in life yet.
Right, right. Let's KPI it, okay?
So the KPI thinking and the goal thinking and an understanding of measuring success based on an internal measurement of success may make sense for some people. And there's times in my life where I looked at life and my business as a victory to be won. And it was about how can I be up for the struggle? How can I be up for the challenge? How can I make the effort I need? How can I be up for any challenge? And I really didn't have a subjective kind of measurement based on a feeling of prosperity. That wouldn't have made any sense to me. So for me, in that at that period, there were some kinds of measurable KPIs that I think I needed to look at. What do you guys think about that?
So I used to implement KPIs. So, so
You were Mrs. Corporate for a
I
while.
was Mrs. Corporate for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, and we felt in corporate and in business, and therefore I felt in my life at that time that success was achieving a goal. And what I discovered personally is that any goal that I set out was meaningless because I still felt whatever I was feeling when I achieved that goal. It didn't solve that feeling I was looking for. Right? In business, it's in order to achieve, and from my perspective and my experience, it's been from a place of this is a battle, this is a war, we're going to win this thing.
Right.
And that doesn't resonate with me. So here I am in a business, in a lifestyle that never resonated with me. And we wonder why I was so miserable. I don't know. What about you, Florian?
I really think it depends on how each and everyone wants to live this. So, for example, in terms of business, how do I know my business is healthy? Well, because there is money coming in and out, and it's alive somehow. And there's, I think here there are KPIs that are needed if that's a non-emotional structure, whatever the structure is, it's important. as soon as emotions are coming in, it becomes very chaotic. So a business is made of numbers, but it involves humans. For example, so in the entrepreneur experience, how do I measure success? Well, I think I need to separate those things and think, okay, am I feeling good about what I do? Does that work? Do I want to take more of these challenges and keep going with that? These questions are very important for me, but for my business, it's nothing. My business would not care as long as there is money coming in and out and it's alive and it doesn't even need to grow, but some people want to do that. So I think it really depends on how we try to think of success and what parties are involved. Non-human things can have logic, numbers, and all of that. Human things are much more complex.
One of the challenges, I think, is whether you're in the matrix or outside the matrix of work structures and hierarchies. If somebody's in a hierarchical matrix, it takes some tremendous courage to work off internal KPIs. And I've been there. So I've been a business developer for software companies, marketing agencies, and I owned a company that was a distribution company where we were a regional sales office for product companies. And what I found was that I could still find my own inner directed KPIs based on what I cared about, because what I wanted to measure was what I cared about, and then play the game as I needed to play it. But what I love about being an entrepreneur, or if you're a coach or a service provider, is it's your own game. You do whatever you want.
That's true. My experience in business is I've never been, and I was in business for a long time, in a business situation where there wasn't emotion involved. And so one of the struggles I had with implementing KPIs, and I'll take one particular organization, so this is not a truth across the board, but a truth of this particular experience, is it's impossible to implement a structure of KPIs when you're dealing with senior leadership that has their own pet programs that have
Right.
nothing to, there's where the emotions come into business, right? And so for me, my most success in business was when I brought my emotion to the table. My emotion and my caring about my team, my caring about where, and so it wasn't a battle, it was a nurturing, right? A completely matriarchal versus patriarchal perspective. And so you need in different areas of a company as it grows, both. Your salespeople have got to be patriarchal, out, hunt, kill, bring it in.
Yeah, that's right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Bring it in. And then when it comes in, they don't care. Leave the bloody mess for whoever is left.
Yeah.
And that's
Nurture,
the
nurture, nurture, nurture.
nurture. Right. Let's take this and let's feed the family. Right. Right. And so how do you measure all of that? There's portions that you can measure in a business, like achieving goals, and being sure those goals align to a vision and align to the corporate purpose. But when the emotions come in, and they do the second that you add more than one person, that also has to be addressed, because their vision of success is internal first, external second, from my experience.
Well, when it comes to success, I think of one specific person. I think of Robin Williams. And I'm like, can you imagine someone being more successful than he was? So, yes, probably in terms of numbers, but he had fame, he had money. He could have kept going with his career and all of that, or stopped it, whatever. He could have done everything he wanted with his life. He ended it. And to me, in terms of human experience, it tells a lot. So it's like, I'm often back to the pyramid of, to Maslow's pyramid. It's like we have needs as humans. It makes sense. We need food to survive. We need money to buy this food, or maybe we don't need money. I lived in the Caribbean and I could just eat fruits and vegetables all day long out there. So maybe we don't even need that, but I do need to eat, drink, whatever I need. And we go up and up and up. But at some point, the KPIs are non-measurable. So how do you know when you are fulfilled? Is there a KPI that says, oh, there you are fulfilled and there you're not yet, almost there? I don't know yet. But I often think of him, of Robin Williams. I'm like, wow, he ended his life when he could have done everything with that. What does that mean?
I
Yeah.
see this with Jim Carrey on the other side, where here's someone who said, I got everything I ever wanted. And this is often taught as his how he manifested it using the stuff from The Secret and Rhonda Burns method and writing down the check to himself and everything. But what they forget is that he said, I wish everyone could get everything they wanted and become rich and famous and get everything they wanted, to realize it's not the answer. And then he started hanging out with Eckhart Tolle, and then he got his answer. And I was talking about this with the guy who is just desperate for sales, and I'm explaining this more money now approach that I've got, which is not about chasing money, but it's about getting money. It's definitely about focusing attention and direction into a marketplace. So you're going to succeed financially, because a lot of us want a lot of money. We want to succeed financially. And we were at an impasse where I didn't give up, but I just realized he's just never going to do this. And the impasse was releasing himself from the fear of not having money. He wouldn't do it. He refused. And I looked at it as, look, what do you really want to bring to the world to get the money? And he didn't want to go there. He said, well, it doesn't matter as long as it works. And I said, okay, so why does it have to work? Because, well, I need money. I'm like, so is the issue you're afraid? Well, he didn't like that so much. And as we went down that road, it was like, well, release the fear, then figure out what you're here to do, start playing with that in the marketplace, and that will lead towards financial success.
And then once you get the financial success and you're still not happy, right? Then that's the time. And I think that's what happened to me. That's the time when you redefine success. You have to redefine success. And for me, I flew 3,000 miles away from the East Coast to the West Coast to find myself, because I wasn't happy and I had everything. And I left it all. And I was so happy when I made that change. So finding myself and what that means for me is success.
Yes, I think we're back to the pyramid, right? It's you. Once you have food, shelter, you have a community, you have self-esteem, you have a successful career. What's left to achieve? Self-actualization is left to achieve. And my issue, my challenge in this life is I come the other way around. So I'm like,
that's right.
fuck that. Fuck that. I'm self-actualized, and now I have to go back down the pyramid. And because the world around me doesn't understand what I'm saying when I tell them, well, there is much more to life than a bunch of numbers on a bank account. Okay, you can have numbers. It's great. It's cool. Yes. But in my experience, everything I desire, I get it. And I do not need to be a millionaire or billionaire, whatever numbers we think of, to get those things. That doesn't make me reject money or think, oh, this is a bad thing. No, it's even evolving in a way I love. I play with cryptocurrencies these days. So it's a fun game to play as long as it is a game. And my mother used to tell me that money is serving you well, but it's a bad master. It's not it doesn't work as a master. It doesn't have that, it shouldn't have that role. And what she meant is also, when you think of money as a KPI, only of money as a KPI, then you become its slave. That's
And
not
that's
freedom.
where accountants running business is a problem. because the people piece is missing. And I do want to get back to one thing, and then I'm interested because Larry, I can see your brain is like percolating. The pyramid thing in 2020, I put a post out about Maslow had it upside down. We come into this world self-actualized, and the rest is
Yes.
downhill. Stop climbing the hill.
Yes.
It's not that
that's
hard.
right. Yeah. I think the false idea of the trade-off is part of the problem. So people are in an argument that doesn't need to be had between freedom, satisfaction, happiness, money, results of which one do I want, which one do you want, who's right, who's wrong. It just makes no sense at all.
Doesn't
It's a
matter.
complete it's just a complete misunderstanding of the whole thing. So the way I look at money and KPIs and results now is in what I'm calling, and I think other people are calling, not just me, prosperity. What is prosperity? Prosperity is a feeling state. It's a knowing that I've got everything that I need to have now, even if I don't have the thing that I would like to have. So releasing myself from the chasing of it, like you're talking about, money can't be the KPI. It's around the people, because all these things come through the relationships with other people. And if I let those relationships happen, the feeling of prosperity expands. And then surprise, surprise, I end up getting what I want.
You know, so my first position as a manager, I was in a company that brought me in because they were in trouble. And the way that I got them out of trouble, yes, I changed processes, procedures, talked with banking and a whole bunch of other things, but I nurtured the team. And when the team felt safe, they excelled. It was really them that made the change. Yeah, I did a couple of other things, but it was their belief that this was solid that made it solid. How do you measure
And
that
I
KPI?
think,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think now my KPIs are now kind of abstract. So if I'm in a space in which I really want something, and I'm like, oh, it's not happening, it's not happening, I better ask myself first, do I really want that? Then, am I being patient or impatient? That's very important because the more impatient I am, the more impatience I create. And thus, I get to get the things I want and be like, ah, finally, well, now, and hop on the next thing before I even enjoyed what I just got. And all of this is very important here. So I have mine. Is am I being patient or impatient? Am I being not focused but present? Am I being
Yeah.
right here, right now with you, or am I being distracted? Oh, I have 10 notifications and I have this video that I have to watch, so I'm launching the video and responding my messages. Am I being present to here and now or not? So these are two or three questions I love asking myself. Do I really want that? Am I being patient or impatient right now? And am I being right now or everywhere else but now, right?
Yeah, there's a challenge around this for most people. And one of the things I think a lot about with the idea of more money now, which is not chasing money, but getting success in the marketplace in a tangible way, is to give yourself a break and be where you are. So if you can't eliminate the busyness and the distraction and all of this, set yourself in motion, but just in a direction that feels right, as opposed to forcing yourself to go in a direction that feels terrible because your KPIs require it.
Yes. And the feeling in corporate, I learned to ignore my feelings. So I learned to ignore my instinct. I learned to ignore who I am. Um, I now, as you guys know, completely the opposite. And like you were mentioning chaos, and I was talking to you guys the other day about I was having a severe ADHD day. Like I could not finish anything. I would go for my coffee and then turn on the laundry and then go get a sandwich, and then, oh, right, I was going to turn on the coffee, and oh, let me write a post. Oh, wait a minute, the laundry, right? And I was finishing nothing, and I started to get frustrated. Then I stopped. And I'm a believer that any resistance causes more resistance, and it doesn't help at all. And so I leaned into, all right, today's an ADHD day. I'm going to be scattered today. Let it happen. And things started coming together. I was still working in a chaotic way, but I was finishing things. Like I got my coffee, I got the laundry in the dryer, right? I got the post done, without making it happen, but allowing the position or the being I was that day to be. And it's tough when you're in corporate and you have deadlines and demands.
Because they make you do what that's what's so great about working for yourself is you can decide in the moment. This happens all the time, and this is one of my biggest complaints with these how-to gurus is telling me what will work for me when they have no idea, because no one can know what will work for anybody else. Sometimes the work for me is to really go down a tunnel with explosive energy and just do it. And I'm having a great time because it feels right, even if it's very hard. Other times the work is don't do anything because you're spinning in circles. Keep spinning in circles
Yeah.
because there's something going on in those circles that you're working through. Just keep spinning in them. Don't try to stop the spinning, which is what you're talking about. Who knows? Who the only person in the world that can know that for me is me.
Yeah. Or all right, Gail, put everything down and just go for a walk. Just go for a walk or go for a drive. I go for a drive when I'm frustrated because I roll down the window and I scream out the window. Right. Right. Profanity. Right. And then I feel better and I come and things get done. Right. And so it's leaning into what's happening. And that success to me is having the permission to do those things.
Yes, I feel like there is a lack of maturity around that. So people think, oh, intuition is something totally abstract. You can hardly follow it except if you are a kind of spiritual person or you meditated okay, for years, whatever. And it's like, to me, intuition is whatever I'm thinking of right now is what I should focus my attention on. My mind literally needs this. My brain needs that. And when I give it my attention and I release whatever my mind needs to release, which involves emotions, and emotions are not that spiritual or abstract. They are real. They were here before logic. We felt emotions before we could measure money in a bank account. So this is fucking real, and this is really important then. and and when I listen to my brain, it's like, we need to get this done, or to do this right now, to do that right now. That's what I call intuition. I'm connected with that.
It's so brilliant. And I see a lot of people who are preparing themselves to have intuition or spiritual connection or whatever people want to call it. So they're preparing themselves for it because they're planning the ayahuasca retreat or their ice bath or they're planning their meditative practice or whatever. And you just shortcut the entire illusion of that in what you said.
Well, and that's that I have to. So Gail, what's your meditative practice? I don't meditate. What? I sit quietly. I listen. I respond to instincts, if you will. Call it whatever that feeling is to make a choice. The other day, and I'll share the story with here. We meet every day, and I've been doing this for what, 9 months, 10 months, who knows how long. And one morning I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling, and I wrote down a word, I'm not going today. And what I wrote down was the energy of what was happening in that meeting. I didn't want to participate in that. And so I didn't show. That's what instinct is. You feel something, you think something, and you follow through with it. And when you do that, you start getting better at hearing yourself. That's not meditation. That's being self-aware.
It's trust in life. And trust in life does not require very complex technology. And it's not that meditation's bad. It's good. I've done a ton of meditation, but I never meditated to go do anything. The
Right.
meditation came to me when I needed it for a particular purpose, and then I stopped doing it. I used it for that purpose, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done.
Yeah. And I will guide meditation in a group, and the purpose is to bring people to a certain level or to a certain understanding or to a certain feeling
Yeah.
about themselves, right? In order to get us to a common platform to move forward with whatever it is that we're doing. Um, and so back to success, right? What is success? To me, success is not resisting and allowing myself, giving myself permission to do.
So we got about 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to stay on for another 10 minutes after we finish up. But let's go back to the beginning and sort of wrap it up. So the idea of measuring success and what is success, and I love that you gave your definition, because what's cool about this is all our definitions are different. That's the point.
Yes.
And if I look at the guru influencer economy, people are fighting over definitions. So some people will say, well, for me, success is freedom. And then they have a position on it. And someone else will say, no, it's all about happiness. And someone else will say, no, it's all about money. I'm like, what are you people talking about? It doesn't make any sense.
Success is personal.
That's right.
Larry, your success is not my success, and I honor what yours is, and it's none of your business what mine is.
Well, I don't want to travel around and do garden parties for my
No.
book and the stuff you're doing, but I want you to do it. Like,
Right.
I don't want to tell you to do it my way or have the same success that I want to have. So, I wrote a little board back there a while back because my idea of success comes from an inner directed vision, which is a purpose that unveiled itself inside me through connected action into the world and dealing with the friction and impact that was trying to attack me. Basically, my mind was attacking me from realizing that direction and vision that I have. So my job was to deepen my understanding of what that picture is, really. So I should know what I want. That's important. But then there's a moment where, for me at least, you don't even need to know what you want anymore because you're in it. That's the prosperity experience of being in prosperity. Then you don't need a board of success anymore, or even KPIs, or really anything. But there's an intermediate step of form and planning and figuring out over time to get to the point where you don't need that anymore at all.
And I give my clients and myself permission to change your mind.
Yes, I think in my version of success, there is that total acceptance. That's one word I use very often. Also, in the transformation aspect of these gurus and sages people, it's like often we skip that step. So we are aware that's what marketing people call the pain or the desire of your people. It's like, okay, so I know that, but most of the times, like, oh, I'm taking you from here to there as a straight line. It's not. That's a triangle. There is acceptance in between. This is the real, true, deep, and powerful transformation I observed. And sometimes it just takes I know you have the right to feel bad today, and boom, immediately they feel better and everything is changing.
Yeah.
So to me, success is how much can I accept myself today, right now? How much do I do it? How much do I keep doing it? And when I don't and I get distracted, I'm back to my prompting. And that's how I measure how I feel successful, which in the end is a feeling, as Robin Williams could tell you, right?
Yeah.
So we got 1 more minute. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sure we confused people, and that's fantastic.
Well, one thing I would say is if you've ever studied Taoism or practice any of it, the idea of doing, not doing is really what we're talking about. And that's a paradox. So really understanding this requires embracing paradox.
Yeah. And being okay with being the person who took the red pill.
Knowing not knowing.
Yeah.
Knowing
and
not knowing is the answer to knowing.
and embracing it. And my final thought is that I think success is most of the time it's measured through items, whereas my success is measured through the space between items and in the space between items.
Yeah.
How
Now you're
much
leaving
can
them
I
really
and do I enjoy
confused.
it?
Now there's a
Now
whole
you're
other,
gonna
we
leave
can do a
everybody
whole
really
thing on the
confused.
space between, the space between.
Because that's the most brilliant ending we could have.
Yep.
I'm going to explain what Florian said for 10 minutes.
Oh, awesome.
I'm going to
Fantastic.
stay on and I'm going to explain that because the space between the space is
It's
freedom.
where the music happens.
It's where the music happens. Any artist knows this.
Yep.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Maybe.
All right. I'm going to explain that idea because this just sort of came up and I think this is very, very confusing. I know it was for me until I had a deeper experience of it over time, and then it started to make more sense. That's the idea of the note that the music is between the music. So actors talk a lot about this. So they'll say, "Who's the best scene partner?" And I think Sean Penn. I was listening to Sean Penn. He said, "Someone who can hold silence." And if you look at musicians, it's the same thing. It's the space. And they architect space together, playing together harmonically. And it's the same in business. And in business, we're different kinds of people. So we don't go down the road less traveled roads selected by people who are outside the societal conventional thinking, the artists. And the artists get it. I don't have to explain this. When I talk to someone who's a musician or an actor or any kind of a creative, they're there already. They know exactly what I'm talking about. When I talk to business people, they look confused. When I talk to people who have a spiritual background, they look confused too. And it's because they're intellectualizing it, because their spirituality, now I'm not saying always, I'm just saying in some cases, the spirituality is one of intellect. It's of reading about Taoism, reading about Buddhism, reading about or meditating a lot or being in meditative practices or knowing the vocabulary. Some people even are very advanced in knowing yoga sutras, Patanjali, or read all these things or read Yogananda. So they can have an intelligent discourse around what I'm talking about and know absolutely nothing about it. The musicians and the artists do. And it's very important because this is how life really works. So what Florian's talking about is best accessed through what I call the virtual stool. And the virtual stool, for me, I carry it around everywhere I go, is a 3-legged stool. And one leg is notice, and the second leg is adjust, and the third leg is calibrate. Now, what am I noticing? I'm noticing what isn't being said. I'm noticing what is there that I can't grasp. What does this really mean? It means that the truth exists outside the mind's thinking process. So the mind is thinking. Outside of the mind is where the depth of the world is. Sorry about the dogs. And the depth of connection into that world is between the notes, between the thoughts. It's outside the mind, but it's beyond the mind. It's enveloping the mind. So the mind's in the way. So the idea of freedom comes from allowing yourself to slow down the thinking. Now, you don't have to meditate. You don't have to have a deep practice to do that. There are purposes for those practices. Yoga science, for example, has a pathway to escape from the mind for union with this energetic plane that I'm talking about, where all the notes between the notes are and the creative intelligence. It's a pathway to that. That pathway calls you and you follow it. You can't force it. You can't force it. You can't make that happen with KPIs and results and because I need to get this. And no, it doesn't work like that. But what any human being can do is find your own way into these planes of creative existence and truth. And that's the notes between the notes. And if you want to read a book about, one of the best books I've seen is The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. He explains this really well. Maybe I'm just going to get the book because nobody's going to listen to me when you got Rick Rubin. So when you got Rick Rubin, instead of Larry Call, I think he has more credibility around creativity, because he worked with, created modern hip hop with, I forget his name now. Okay, nothing is static. The world is always changing. Exactly. You can engage in the same awareness practice 5 days in a row in the same location and have a unique experience each time. Why? Because that creative energetic flow in the world is intelligent, and it is where the information is that you want. It's where what's next is. It's where the art is. And our job as human beings, I'm not talking about artists, and he's not either. He's talking about anybody, everybody, is to have an awareness practice where you're aware of that happening as it's happening. If you're doing deep meditation, staring in candles, and you're going to miss it. An awareness practice is what I said, notice. The stool is notice, 3 legs, notice, adjust, and calibrate. Notice. Different sounds and different smells may be present. Notes between the notes. What are the sounds? What are the smells? What is anything? What are you noticing? No 2 gusts of wind feel quite the same. Experiencing life directly is what he's talking about, transcending the confusion of the mind. The tone and quality of sunlight changes from minute to minute and day to day. Any painter understands this. Most business people have no idea what this means and think it doesn't matter. It does matter, because what's next in the creative intelligence in your marketplace is that. That's where the intelligence, this is where I live. Within the richness of nature, the variations are easily noticeable. Some are shouts, others whispers. Even if an element seems static, whether a work of art in a museum or an everyday object in a kitchen, when we look at it deeply, we can see a newness. This is important. We recognize aspects unnoticed before. That's where the money is. That's where the money is. You can't chase that money. You don't want to, because if you're chasing it as money, it's not what you want, because no one wants more money, really. What we want is a feeling of prosperity that includes money as the byproduct of doing the thing you're here to do. So most of us, we're not artists, we're not musicians, we're not Rick Rubins, but we use those principles. Anyone in the world can use them. It amazed me when I started living this way, because I didn't even know you could do this. I didn't know somebody like me could do this. I thought I had to be like an artist. I didn't even know what they were doing, artists. Now I can see it. Warren Buffett talks about this. He describes seeing, but not really with his eyes, but knowing, looking in financial reports, what's going on with a company. He sees the whole story of the company, and then he can make smart investment decisions. Nothing escapes him. And he's cultivated that. That's the notes between the notes. You can do this in your market and see what's next. For you, that's what's unnoticed. What's unnoticed is we're all in the same world. So the creative intelligence and energy is the same, but we all experience it. And this is what Rick's book's about, is we're experiencing it differently because of our own filters, either karmic filters, which are blocking us from experiencing it directly, which is the belief systems and the cause and effect thinking patterns are blocking us. But we're also experiencing it differently because of our creative presence. So our gifts are different. Every single individual is going to have a different interpretation of the song, of that creative energy. So what I pull from the creative energy, what Gail pulls, what Florian pulls, is totally different, but it's the same creative energy, the notes between the notes. If you want to understand why certain people get everything they want in life, that's why. Because they're living in the notes between the notes, which is in the creative intelligence. And you don't have to go on a big ayahuasca retreat. You don't have to learn meditation practices. You don't have to do all this stuff to do this. All you have to do is notice, adjust as new sounds, new thoughts, new feelings, new experiences come, adjust for those, and then calibrate, which is inside yourself, connecting into the marketplace of the people you want to be around. And if you do that, you don't need KPI.